So even in retail, we need to be telling these stories. Like what is the story of this product? What is the story of our store or this event? Like, what is this thing that should make you care about this to be able to open this email or open this marketing or shop at our store?
Hello there. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here, Nick. I'm so excited to have you joining us.
I cannot think of a better way to end my week, Kathy. And I literally would rather not be anywhere else than right here. So I'm super excited to be here.
Oh my gosh. Well, and do you know that you are the special bonus episode of a series we've been doing? I sat down with my team and we heard a lot of things about how retail is dead, like all this stuff. I said, that's not true. It's not dead. And that because of all the research that I do, I'm a geek about researching consumer psychology and how things are changing and looking at the entertainment industry and the sports industry and how are people consuming it and all that stuff. I came up with the top 7 moneymakers for 2025 series. And this is actually the 8th. This is the bonus one. And you will understand why. If you listened to last week's episode with Crystal from Rooted in Retail, she actually talked about how if you could only do one thing, she said, I wouldn't even tell you to do social media. And she said, that's what I talk about all the time. But she said, I would tell you to do an email. And that is so true. And that's why I've invited Nick with us. Nick, tell us a little bit about your retail story. You've been in retail quite a while. I've been in it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I very honestly have done nothing else in my entire adult life besides retail. So I got a job in retail when I was 16. And then that was literally all she wrote. I went to college and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. All I knew was I wanted to stay near and dear to, at the time, it was fashion and retail. It was a combination of the two. But literally my first semester of college, I moved to New York City and never went back. I knew I wanted to work. I really didn't want to go to school. I knew I just wanted to be in the industry. So I did get a degree, but I did it while I was like nights and weekends. I was in New York. I literally got my first internship, first semester of college. I moved to New York when I was 20, because I turned 21 when I was there. And I got a free internship, unpaid. At the time, it was PR, but eventually I worked my way back into the wholesale side. That's where I spent most of my career, working for luxury brands on the wholesale side, selling product into stores. I worked for Saks Avenue in Minnesota, where I'm from, so I had kind of the flip side of that. But I was just basically selling product and growing brands in stores. And during that time, my favorite thing to do when I was working on the brand side was you have this like very tunnel vision as a wholesale rep, where it's basically like, how can I put myself in the shoes of our retailers of how to sell more of our product? How can they be engaging their customers, getting those people coming back in store, and really getting them to fall in love with your brand. So from that, I started a software company, actually, when I left the industry. We're called One Shop Retail. And the whole component, I mean, we do a lot of things now. We do clienteling, one-to-one outreach. We do email marketing. We do text marketing. We have a loyalty program. But really, all of this is about taking your customers and turning them into rabid fans of your store, getting them to come back in store. That's our singular goal as a company. So the thing I was in love with at wholesale was for one brand. Now our software really, and kind of what I spend all my time in strategizing and thinking about is how to do that across all your brands, across all your customers. How can you get those customers to fall in love with not just you and your store, but your product and everything about them to make them very literally, ideally, if we can, get them shopping every day at your store.
Wow. You've seen retail change so much. And
so much.
I mean, don't you think it's more important now than ever, literally?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think now more than ever, 100%. And we've seen this bifurcation also of like big brands versus small brands, especially because I know a lot of people who listen to this are store owners or independent retailers on that side of things. Just like with the proliferation of Temu and Amazon and all these things, like product is no longer the value proposition. It's no longer like, well, I have great product. You know, every 10 years it's gotten harder, right? You know, when department stores first opened up in like the 50s, it was the only place you could buy products. So if you had to go there to your corner store or whatever. And then as time has progressed, as things have gotten more accessible, the product you carry in your store is not really that special. You can usually find it in many places online in the click of a button. So now I think that community is really the offering the stores have. It's like that emotional connection you have with your customers, them wanting to buy from you, me wanting to buy from Kathy is what is your whole value. And I would argue that's even more your business, that you just happen to sell products via that relationship. That's just like, it's like a byproduct now. It used to be the main thing. Now it's like, you have to have good product. That's a checkbox, but the relationship is what matters. And then everything else comes on the back of that.
I was watching a show last night about Neiman Marcus and how they're closing in the flagship store in Dallas, and
downtown, yeah.
How all the things that this man did that created Dallas, like how he poured so much time and energy into the arts. I mean, he loved the arts, but he's poured so much time and energy into it so that people would have a place to go to wear what he sold in his store.
Totally.
I thought that was so fascinating, you know, but big, huge stores like that.
They've they've lost that connection, right? Like I was very intimately involved with that store. I spent a lot of time in that store throughout my career. Neiman Marcus was one of our biggest customers for almost every brand I worked for. So I spent a lot of time in that store. And I still feel very close and dear to that company and those companies that Saks have bought it. But over time, individuals of the store have maintained this, but I would say the stores themselves are losing that connection, that close connection outside of people that have literally already been shopping there for 30 years. They've lost that connection with the new customers of like, oh yeah, this is where I shop. I shop at downtown Dallas, Neiman Marcus, because I go there. Everyone, all the movers and shakers that I know go there. It's just like lost that aura. And because of that, now we see sales implications of that and everything that's happening. So,
well, and it's interesting. Also, the other thing that happened yesterday from the sports side of everything, I love sports so much. And the NHL during their
Four Nations, I wasn't sure if you were going there, but I was waiting for it to come out. I was up late watching overtime and everything. I don't even watch hockey.
Exactly. That's my whole point. But it's because you belong to something bigger than just hockey. But you weren't just watching a stick and a puck. It was the whole thing. Tell me, why were you watching it? Tell me.
100%. I mean, like, listen, normally I'm not the most patriotic guy. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm an American. I grew up here. Like, but I'm normally not like, rah, 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 go America. But for whatever reason, this just like, I was watching it felt it like in my heartstrings. I was watching the game. It's like, this feels like the most patriotic thing. Even comparable to like even more so than the Olympics, because the Olympics has so many sports happening. It just felt like this moment where it's like, I don't know what's going on right now, but I feel emotionally connected to the country. Like we're all rooting on, we're all sitting here together watching this one thing happen.
Exactly. Right. It was just incredible. And the other thing that was interesting was that, did you know that also so fascinating? I cannot wait to see all the viewership reports and everything that must be out today, because the previous game, it's not even worth getting into the details for you who don't love hockey and don't love sports and don't love analyzing all this stuff like Nick and I could do and talk about all day long, because it's so applied. But this is the thing, is you don't need to, because you're here. And what Nick and I do is we just consume all this stuff so that we can show you how it applies to what you do. Please stick here. I realize it might feel like we're a little off track, but we are right
coming back.
In the heart. We're right in the heart of what you need to know. So the way this whole Four Nations things work, they had teams of all the Four Nations that are
they split the whole NHL into 4 different countries that were going to play each other in, several games of a tournament. It basically became their all-star game, but they split it into countries. So countries played each other similar to how they do the Olympics, that eventually would crown one nation as the winner of this like mini tournament, basically.
Exactly. And the one previously where U.S. played Canada in Canada was the highest rated one, and the viewership was off the charts. I can't remember the exact
it's one
numbers.
Of the most watched hockey games ever.
Ever. I almost believe that it was also more than Stanley Cups,
probably true.
Stanley Cups.
Yep.
It was incredible. So then last night, it was like, what was going to happen? How about this stat? That Vegas said that it was their most bet game ever outside of the NHL, outside of the NFL.
Wild.
More people betting on it than ever before. Come on. That's crazy. What does that tell you? That people want a place to belong to, and they can't belong to Neiman Marcus anymore because there's nothing to belong there, but they can belong to your store. And how do you tell them about your store? You tell them about your store through email.
I think the other thing I was going to add that brings us back to email specifically, or to marketing as a whole, but also email, is the thing with this game that outside of just community, I agree with you, half of it, but the other half is storytelling, right? It's like, because it's for the Four Nations with Canada versus the US, so you have all these multiple storylines weaving in. Not to get political, but you have like Trump going against Canada. You have the tariffs of Canada. You have Canada, US in the history of hockey has been like A versus B, like, nemesis. So you have these sub stories. I think without those stories, like, besides just being American is not enough. Like, even the Olympics, right? It's not just like, I care about the Olympics, I'm American. You need to have these plot lines and tell the story of like, why does this matter? What are all the mini stories and moments that led up to this moment that are the big moment? So even in retail, we need to be telling these stories. Like what is the story of this product? What is the story of our store or this event? Like, what is this thing that should make you care about this to be able to open this email or open this marketing or shop at our store? For most retailers, and if you're listening, put your hand in the air as you're driving through the car or whatnot, if this is you, I think most retailers see email as a checkbox. Like, they know it's important, but they're like, all right, check. Did I do my email this week? The minute it gets sent, moving on to the next thing. And that's it. Like, either they don't do it at all, or if they do it, it's the lowest level of effort because it's literally just like an A to B. I think they just think about it as, okay, I have this need, which is I'm on sale. I need to tell my customers about that. So I need to tell them via email. I want that email to look pretty, but besides that, it's like checkbox. Like, that's it. They don't think about anything else surrounding it. Like, they don't put the thought and the strategy behind, how can I get this open? How can I think about my subject line? How can I think about the content in it? How can I think about the call to action, the button, all this stuff? I think people are just phoning it in. I think the reason it is like, it is a hamster wheel. You do it to, like, social media is kind of the same way, but I think they just see it as a checkbox and they put very little effort into it. We're all stretched thin. I know this. Like, if you're listening, you're like, I have so many things to do, and I get it. But I think the reason it is just they're just not thinking about it enough.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and I think it's very telling that someone who's made her living from social media, Crystal, that for her to say that if you can only do one thing, send out emails. I mean, I think that says a lot too about the value, recognizing the value. Well, and so yet on the other hand, you also hear about email marketing is dead and there's people aren't even getting their emails. I hate emails. Is that actually true, or are people doing it wrong, or what?
Listen, I would say that there's truth to everything. It's absolutely not true that it's dead. That is the most false thing. Like, if you just write it out, we have calls all the time, but we sell an email marketing platform where people are like, no, I hate getting emails. I'm not going to email my customers. That literally choose to not do it, which is insanity. That is the worst business strategic decision you could ever make. That's insane, no matter how emotionally you feel about it. That being said, I mean, email is getting harder. It changes, right? Every single year, literally every single 2 months, we get an update from Gmail or from Outlook or from Apple trying to get your marketing emails out of people's inboxes because they may or may not want those specifically, right? Mm-hmm. But I would say that the byline of that is, in a world where we're all competing for the customer's attention between social media and noise and all this stuff, there will always be a place for good emails. I would say if your emails are crap, yeah, it's going to be hard to drive results from it. Your open rates might be fine, but even open rates are so bloated now because everyone thinks that their open rates are so good. But if you look at email open rates, the inboxes are like almost faking you out because most inboxes oftentimes trigger that pixel on the way in. If you think it got opened, but it maybe didn't actually get opened. So a lot of times it's actually a vanity metric these days. I would say if you write good emails, it's going to work. If you write crappy emails, it's probably not going to work. Like anything. It's the same thing with social media, right? If you do crappy social media posts, no one's going to watch. No one's going to like it. So
true. Well, and so just as an aside, what is a good, even if inflated, open rate?
A good open rate in today's day and age is somewhere between 30 and 50% consistently. I would say if you're below that, because of this vanity metric that I was telling you about, is that if you're at 20, something is wrong. And it probably isn't, honestly, if you're below 20, if you're at 15%, it's probably like, it's something else that's not even like your subject line. It might just be like something with your email provider, or you got marked as spam too many times. Like, there's probably a deeper thing you need to look into to warm it back up, I would say. But I would say today's day and age in open rates, you want to be looking at somewhere between, I'm going to call it 30, maybe 25 to 50% in that range somewhere.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's just because I think that it's just good to know because people don't have any idea,
Totally. Yep.
What it should be. Well, and so the other thing is that I believe strongly that the reason why emails can change from being just something that you check off to something that you realize that the effort you're putting into it is going to create cash from you. So if a retailer isn't making at least $1,000 per each email, what are they missing? What's the formula for making all of these count?
It's not a simple answer. And the one thing that with email is everyone looks for a silver bullet to be like, you know what, Nick, just give me the key to the kingdom. Tell me when to post, how often to post, or how often to send. What should I be sending? All that stuff. And I think that before I got an answer to that, but before I want to go one step back, actually, which is I think everyone inherently makes, like by the time they get to the email, they've actually already made their first misstep, which is not understanding who they're emailing and what they care about. Like, I think you actually have to take a step back and really analyze who you're writing that email to. And yes, I know you know your customers. Like, you might say, like, in the back of my head, I already know, but actually like understanding why do they want your email? If they gave your email first, why do they want your email specifically? So do they want it because you give discounts there? Do they want it because, you know what, like, this is going out to customers that bought this brand. I know they love this brand and they always want to know when this brand comes in store because they love that. So I like to think of the first question is actually, who is it going to? Not how do I make the content great? The first question is actually who. Who is it going to? Who am I sending to? And like, yeah, if you're doing a broadcast email to your newsletter, you need to have, like, the way I like to frame it is you should almost be writing an email to one person. Like, if I like to think about writing my emails as, I'm writing this to Kathy. How can I make this email so good that Kathy just loves this email? And by writing to Kathy, it probably applies to 60% of my customer audience because Kathy is my customer. She is my customer. I write a great email to her. everyone else is going to enjoy it as well. So really understanding who you're writing to, that's like step one. Then step two is, I would say, emailing Kathy more often, but with pointed messages. So if you're trying to drive $1,000, the mistake that we see all the time is bombarding the content in your email. So putting we like to say that just like a social media post, emails should have, in most scenarios, I'm going to put newsletters to the side because we can talk about that too. The more emails you send should be like single topic emails. Hey, the subject should be a single topic. We're on sale. Okay. Then the call to action should be like, we're on sale. Here are the amazing things that are on sale. And here's why you should buy them. And here's how. Don't say it that blandly, but think of a creative way of saying that. What you don't want to do is then put another thing on that email and say, also come to our store event. And then also, follow us on social. And then also. You could have things at the bottom. You could still have follow us on social, all that things. But it's really focusing on what is that job to be done? We are on sale. We really want to find the sale customer and focus on that sale item. We have a new delivery of this pet food. Do I want to email people that have only cats? Probably not, because it's a dog food. Okay, let me make sure I've got the dog food people, the who, and let me make sure that they know about this specific dog food and really focus more granularly on that. And I would say that it will also increase your ability to send more emails, because you're basically I look at people's social media posts that post every day because they post about a new topic every day. If they did one post that was all right, guys, I'm going to come tell you about every new thing in my life. Step one is I'm going to tell you about this new thing in our store. Step two is I'm going to tell you about a new hire. I don't need to see their posts every day, because if I'm going to watch one thing to see all their stuff. So.
Right. Well, and I think the thing that people forget is that, shockingly, people don't see or read every single email you send out. And so in our heads, we've sent out an email, so we shouldn't talk about that same thing again. But no, you have to.
And you have to. And the other thing is, oftentimes, we get in this, is just because somebody else that shops in your store all the time has already heard you say this or seen I think people think that they've overexposed a concept. It's almost always you have new customers that have never opened a single email from you. So you have to be writing your emails still for one person, but understanding that there are other people in there that are brand new to your store, have shopped there forever, and so on and so forth. So you want to kind of I know I'm kind of counteracting myself, but I would say you want to start by writing your email for one person, but then be aware that there's other people in the room and how that may impact them.
Well, and I think the thing is when you're writing it to one person, it just feels more personal. It does. Trust us, please, because y'all really does create a different email when you write it like that. And the other thing I'll say is that is to be sure that you're not using words or terms that are just so inside your store. Every single time, we talk about the milling moment, but every single time I explain what it means. I know there's going to be someone listening who's never listened to before, and I don't want them feeling like they're not part of the club.
Yeah. I would say that's the other thing that I think that people get wrong all the time is just inherently as human beings, we're impatient and we get bored, right? So people might think oh, we've sent this email so many times. Then again, it's when you find a format that works, you want to live and die by that format. If people, you just find man, everybody loves our new delivery Friday emails. Every Friday we do a quick update of our 5 favorite new delivery items, and everybody loves that. What happens is it works. We do it for 3 months, and people are yeah, but what's the next thing we should do? It's nothing. Keep doing it until it stops working. Just keep doing it forever until
add another email is what I would.
Yeah, add another. Exactly. Yeah. No, but that email, don't drop it. Don't just change it. Just once you find something that works, just find a new way to remix it that keeps it exciting, and then new people will come in. They'll want that same thing, and so on and so forth.
Right. I always talk about how the easiest way to increase your business by 13%. This is true. We've tested it. You all know that I'm a numbers gal. I don't use numbers lightly unless I can prove them. If you want to increase your sales by 13%, look at your top sellers, your top 20 to 30, what we call never out of, the items you should never be out of, and buy them deeper. Carry literally 20% more on your floor than you're carrying now. That simple action, I guarantee you, will increase your sales by 13%.
100%.
And yet we get bored by them, and we go to shows and we see all this stuff, and I get that. Nick and I have both been in retail forever, but it's that never out of that, they want to come back to see.
So many times in my career, even on the wholesale side, when I was doing, product assorting and stuff like that, and the same thing applies to marketing, is I can literally never tell a point where it's we just rode that thing too long. I could tell you infinite times when we dropped it too soon. And it was like, oh, we need the next new thing in our collection. Like that worked last year, but it's not going to work again. It's like, I can tell you so many times we tried the new thing, it didn't work, and we should have stayed with the old thing. And I can't tell you a single time where it's like, no, we rode that too long and we just couldn't figure out the new thing. When it starts to decay, it usually doesn't decay straight down. Like if it's been your top seller, it decays very slowly downwards over like usually years. So you have a long time to like figure out what the next thing is, let's say, in that meantime.
So true. And the other problem is the way we're wired. So I'm a God girl, and I cannot wait to get to heaven and ask God why it is that he's wired us this way, how we're wired to just remember the negatives. We don't remember the positives. And the one thing that every single buyer can remember is that one thing that they reordered one too many times.
Totally.
All you can remember is that one time that you ordered too many times. Well, what about all the other things that you did order time and time again? But it's like that one thing, that one cautionary tale. I just don't want it to be that.
If you can do this, and sometimes you need software like One Shop to do this. So it's not always the easiest, but there's lots of platforms out there that you can pull this list to do it, to segment this list out. When it comes to core items, one of the highest performing emails traditionally is pulling people that have bought that core, that has not bought that core or the refresh of that since the last time the core was in. It freaking crushes. So it's like, in core, there's two categories of this. There's core that you buy multiple times. So there's like we have this one customer that just has this white t-shirt. That guy, it's a men's store and they have a white t-shirt. Guys need a new one every 4 months. We run an automation that's like at month 4 month and 1 day, we start sending them stuff for that white t-shirt. And it converts like freaking crazy because it's just something people buy all the time. That's like replenishment, flow, I would say. And then the flip to that is we call it like the core refresh. So it's like the core style, but there's new colors or new fabrics or new whatever. It's like, okay, anybody that bought this core style last time, we want to write to them like new colors, and not to everybody because they didn't know. Everyone else might have not bought the original color, might have not bought the blue, which is your top seller. But sending to the people that bought the blue about the new green just always crushes. Like to just focus on those top selling items. I'm telling you, like you're so right, Kathy. Sometimes we get feedback from people who are like, yeah, but it's our top selling item, so like people will just like buy it. Like, yeah, but you can still get more. Like, can you it's also the vendor's top selling item. So can you replenish back into it? Like, yeah, well, the vendor has more of it. I'm like, great, let's freaking sell through this. Let's go. So it's almost like we want to play on hard mode. For whatever reason, we want the harder thing. So a thing that shocking amount of people are not doing, but venture to bet that most people listening to this podcast have not done this action. If you have, good work, you're an anomaly. But the whole like who and then the content, I would say shockingly few people have asked their customers if they like their emails or not. Like, just ask them. Like, when they come in store, your best customer, like, hey, do you get our emails? Oh, yeah, I get your emails. Do you like them? What do you like about them? Almost nobody does that. They just go off gut. Do I think they like them? Do I think they not like them? The amount of value you will get from that is gold, because they'll tell you, if they read your emails, they will tell you, like, you know what, Kathy, I wake up every Monday and I like this thing specifically. Boom, you've got it. Never stop that. Like, for whatever reason, we just guess. And what you should not do is just put a survey out and be like, hey, fill out our survey. Like, you should actually verbally ask 5 customers this week and just ask them, hey, do you get our emails? Oh, yeah, I do. I think I do. Oh, like, and if they say I do, if they say I think I do, that means that you have not doing a good job. Because if they say you think you do, it means that they've maybe opened it, but they totally have forgot what you have inside of that email. So you want to get a definitive answer like, I do. What do you like about it? Or what do you not like about it? And they will tell you straight up what it is. And if they can't remember, you need to do things that are more tangible in the email.
Well said. In talking about how to create emails that create sales for you that you can make $1,000 for, the thing I'll tell you that I also see the problem is that they don't give it a call to action, and that they'll just say, oh gosh, look at this amazing napkin that we just got in. Aren't they? The color is just great, isn't it? Yeah. So thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Have a great day. Have a good weekend.
Or they'll do a call to action. Yes, 100%. I mean, I'm double clicking on that 1,000%. And they'll just be like, yeah, thanks so much. Goodbye. Or they'll do a call to action, but the action to go buy is too hard. So like we see this all the time for e-commerce websites where it says buy now. And what it does is the link lands you on a page with multiple products on it. And it's like, no, this was about that thing. Just land them on the product page and get them as close to buy as possible. Like, you want as few clicks as possible for them to buy that one thing. We've had people that are like, this thing, and they land them on the homepage. It's like, what are you doing? Like, now I got to go find that thing on your homepage. Like, how are you going to possibly do that? So I say those are 2 follow-up points, 100%. Yeah. They don't even do a call to action, or they make it too hard to buy that thing.
Right.
Even in store, like for the non-e-commerce people, because I know someone you don't have, like, maybe as big an e-commerce business, like the thing you're highlighting in that email should be like in the front of your store. It'd be weird. Like, how are you going to convert your email in store if you send the email to your customers and it's like way back on the shelf and the bottom shelf? It's like, no. You just highlighted this thing in your email. It should be like on the front table. So I walk in, I'm like, oh, I just got an email about this. I need to buy this.
The thing is that the customer isn't even aware of the fact that they saw that email and this is the same thing.
Yeah.
It is just the way your mind works. It is scientifically proven that they'll buy that when they see that again. It also helps if you say, as mentioned in our email this week, like that kind of a thing is also super helpful, because what also makes what happens is that, first of all, you're telling them that you do an email. Maybe they didn't know. And it creates special focus on this table where there's all these things. It's like, oh no, this is the item you want to look at. Because if you told me you put this in your email, it must be important. I want to know about it. Because I can tell you that people don't think it's possible. And yes, I have clients who do it all the time. So could we talk just a little bit more about that maybe?
I think something that Kathy is really honed into, when you're looking at optimizing your email, you have to split this into two parts. And most people don't do this. They just say like, email, let me go make this better. Let me go convert more. We talked about open rates. We talked about conversion. Those two things are actually completely separate. They seem connected, but they're actually, you have to connect them. Like your subject line should match your email, but they're two different things. Can I get them to click? And then can I get them to buy? Are two different actions. So first and foremost, I would be like, the best subject line I possibly could put to make them open this email. So most people do it in this order of, I write my email, I make my email design or whatnot, and then I make a subject line to go back to it. Or I write my first idea in the subject line. I would think about subject lines first. First and foremost, what are the best subject lines of this week? Or keep a spreadsheet of like subject line ideas for this week specifically. And then pick the subject line that's going to be the most best reaction to your customers. And now test that to watch your open rate on that and see if it's where you need it to be or even higher. And then go to the conversion. Now track, okay, because if you send it, let's say 1,000 people, a small number, 50% open rate's 500. Great. We can maybe move that up to 700 or figure out what that's going to be through that. But now I have 500 people. How many of those people bought the item that I was sending on behalf of after the email? And then almost no one's tracking that metric just in general of like, what is that conversion on that item? So I was highlighting this thing. How many of my 500 opens actually came in store or online and bought that item in a 1 week window after sending the email?
You're absolutely right. That's such an excellent point. So for you who is thinking that this isn't possible for you, you couldn't have a $1,000 email. I'm betting you already did. And
totally.
You don't even know.
Yep, 100% you did. But you can't move that number up or down. You can't get from 1,000 to 2,000 or 100 to 1,000 unless you know what that number is and be able to actually optimize for it, right? It's like, and this is all the things we talked about on the show of like asking your customers these questions, like playing with the call to action, like figuring what those things are. You tell me your experiences. Back to like what we've been talking about this whole show about consistency is once you get to 1,000, you're going to get 1,000 pretty consistently. It's going to be like, that's your new average because you figured out what they want and how you want to do it. So now you can just optimize for 2,000 and then like kind of go there, but you're going to hit this 1,000. It's just a cash in the bank all the time, getting that revenue from those emails.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. It's just incredible. Well, and so, we do have to touch on AI. What's your opinion about all that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like exacerbate this too much. It's going to change everything over the next couple of years. And where I would say that we're at right now is AI is most valuable in the idea generation phase, like helping you think through these things and being like basically I would call it like a marketing partner with you. Like that's how we use it internally and how I use it. It's like, help me do some of these steps, but I'm also going to like, you need to make sure that it's not the place where it's just going to take the work out of your hands. And it's just going to be bad if it does. So it's like, how can I use it to help me brainstorm our subject line ideas? So try to go through that. Like give me some subject line ideas that I can work through and figure out that side. And then how can I take that and help me like basically get a first draft of the content maybe from the AI specifically to help me build out that first content. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do with email and with all of the stuff that we're talking about is make it feel like this human connection, make it feel like me, the owner, is connecting with the end customer. So AI is going to help over the next period of time, just continue to make that better and better, both from like content itself, but also segmentation. So it's just going to continue to help with, we're going to get to a point, I don't think we're too far away from this, maybe a year from now, where every email is worded slightly differently depending on the recipient, every single one. Even though you're sending one email content, but it's going to be slightly different depending on the recipient, based on their purchase history, based on their needs, all that stuff. Obviously, we're working on this at One Shop for the future, but this is where we're going to get to. It's just going to be humans talking to humans. That being said, what the AI in general, and this is for all of you out there, even if you're not using it right now, it's only ever going to be as good as the input you give it. So all the stuff we're talking about being human, is not going to get replaced by AI. It's still going to need that special sauce that makes you weird in the best way possible, right? What's your unique quirkiness that makes you you? The AI is not going to be able to just take that and be like, oh, well, I can just like replicate that. You're going to need to feed it lots of all the stuff you've been doing. So the best thing you can do is start to hone that right now. Use AI as a partner. But trust me, if you've just seen AI outputs, and I'm sure you guys all on this call have seen it, they're very bland, they're very generic. I could not tell it's Kathy or Nick or whoever. So you really want to start honing your database of your content. So if you're not doing these emails we're talking about, do more of them. As AI gets better, it's only going to make it better for you, but you want to still make it you, and you want the AI to accentuate you, not replace you.
Correct, right. Well, and I've also found that a good thing to do is to say, write me a subject line so good that people have to open it, and assume that a person only has a 3-second attention span. ChatGPT can only produce results to you that are as clear as the questions you've been asking it. So don't hesitate to ask it really crazy specific questions like that, because it is true. People like barely have a 3-second attention span. You've got to make it a great subject line.
One hack I've been using, and I've said this on a couple different podcasts, I've been using it nonstop, is used to be in that format where I was instructing, ChatGPT or whatnot. Hey, write me this email. Hey, write me this thing. Hey, put together this content plan for me, directing it. I've now flipped the script where almost always I have it talk back to me first, and then I talk at it. So as opposed to starting with, hey, write me this email, I start with, I've got these things happening in my store. What questions should I be thinking about when it comes to asking my customers to come back, or to try to get my customers to come back in store? And have it ask me questions first. And then, or say, like, what would help you figure out, how to best communicate with customers? And it will ask you then the questions that we're talking about in this podcast. It will ask you, who is your customer? What type of age are they? Like, And then you can ask your question for, do this thing for me, and it will just do it way better. The thing that unlocked that I have with AI is, if you own a store on this podcast, you have team members. And for whatever reason we have with AI, because there's no human being on the other side, we for some reason have treated it more like a slave and less like an employee. Like, just do my work for me. Like, just I'm going to instruct you to do it. When in reality, when you have an employee, that's not how you instruct an employee. They get better by you asking them questions, see if they have questions for you, kind of like honing them, almost like molding them to be the great, talented person that they are. And that's been the big unlock for me, is like trying to treat it more like, okay, this is just like another person. And what I do with my team members to guide them is I don't just tell them the answer. I ask them to kind of bring me the answer. How do they think about it? So I can see if they think about it differently than me, and sort of like flipping it on its head, which to me has been a gigantic unlock for using these things.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that. I have found that it is incredible how when you do talk to it, because I find myself responding to it just like a person, like, wow, like, so it helped me with some of the questions as an example for today. And I was like, wow, these questions are so great. And it said back to me, well, do you think that it reflects your brand voice enough? And I said, I don't know. Is there a tweak that you think? Yeah, well, how would you change it? And just like you said, like, it was pretty much the same questions, but then they just like put a little bit of a change in it that is just, right. It was
my biggest thing. I was telling my team about this yesterday. I don't know. Do you ever use ChatGPT audio?
No, I don't.
So I am obsessed with it. Like, it's really just like taking your chat, but putting it into a conversation.
Yeah.
But it's just like Siri times 1,000. So basically what I'll do is I drive a lot and I travel a lot for work. And I can't always have my phone like in front of my face. So basically if you do ChatGPT audio, essentially, like, if you're listening to this, I'm showing her what it is. So basically, like, you hit the audio and it just like sits there. And this will just stay open. So I'll just put this in my back of my pocket and put my AirPods in, and it just sits there and opens to it. And you literally just do the same thing, but you can have an actual conversation with it. And for whatever reason, when I talk to it, it changes the dynamic of how I ask it things, because I'm verbally saying it. As opposed to writing it, like give me an email, period. I'm not saying like, I'm saying it out loud. So I have to say like, hey, I'm writing an email right now. I need to write it about this thing. Like, we're this kind of company. I do these kind of things. And then it will talk back to you in a human voice, and you'll just have this conversation back and forth. I think for a lot of us, we just talk more. We talk better when we're talking to people than like writing, let's say. So it's just been like a huge unlock for me to be able to just chat with it verbally than have to write it out.
That is really true.
And you have the transcript, right? Because once you're done with it, you can just go back and look at their answers that were read to you, but you can go back and look at the answers that they gave you. So
thanks so much.
Highly recommend audio ChatGPT.
That's really great. Good to know. I certainly believe that the future of email marketing is crazy bright, which is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah,
also.
It's crazy bright. Listen, I think the one caveat I want to make here is email marketing, it's not going anywhere. For sure for the next 10 years, I'd make a bet on that. But I would say it's more about a direct communication channel you have with your customers, which is not social media, because social media is controlled by something in the middle, which is the algorithm, right? So everything we're saying for email equally applies to any owned channel you will have, right? And it kind of changed my perspective towards this, where it's like, the email is not necessarily the important thing. That's what exists today. So even in 10 years, if it goes away, we now have text marketing. It's got differences to it, obviously, but it's got a very similar mechanism compared to it. There's other things emerging like WhatsApp and, Facebook Messenger and all those things. Any way you can get directly to your customer on a consistent basis, all these things we're talking about fit in that category. But social media is its own thing because you're now in a different environment. You're playing different rules than a one-to-one communication that can get a hold of you.
Right. That's so true. There were just a couple of other really quick questions that I know that I always get. One is that people always ask, how often should I be really emailing my customers?
Well, we did a good job. We made it however many minutes in this podcast before that question came up, because it's the question I get every single day.
Is it really?
Oh my God. Literally, the number one question is, how often should I be emailing my customers? And the number two question is, at what time? So those are just the two, unanimous. For whatever reason, I think people just want an answer of just tell me how many times to email my customers. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you the answer, because the reason being is we very literally, Kathy, have stores. It's a very few between. I tell people this all the time. We have stores that send 5-day-a-week emails to their customers because they promised their customers a 5-day-a-week email. So the reason that you can do that is most people miss the first step. Most people, when they sign up their customers to their email list, they do it in a sneaky way. So it's like they're catfishing from day one, because when you go to a store, it's like, hey, what's your email? Why do you need it? Oh, we just need it for the POS. They just ask for the email. And then that's how you get your customer into your list. Or on a pop-up, we say, 10% off, sign up for your email. So we're just grabbing this email from you. And then we have to figure out how to back into your value.
Or I think the other thing too that people will say, so, give me your email. Yeah. Well, don't worry. We don't email a lot. We won't bother you.
Do not do that. For the love of God, do not do that. I've had people, Kathy, literally say, we won't email you. Oh, why do you need it? Oh, we won't email you. I've seen so many cashiers say, no, we just need it for our database. I'm like, no. You use our software. You're going to email them right now. I promise you, 10 minutes from now, you're going to email them. So that is the absolute worst of the worst side of this. But I think that if you can find a way, even if you have to get it that way in your first email, sort of giving them the expectations of the email. I think it's important to sort of know what they're getting into, right? It's okay, if I sign up to a morning wake up email from the founder or from the owner, I might do that. I mean, I love your store. I want to be on your daily your email. So giving people the option, well, do you want to be on the owner's daily email, or do you want to be on our, biweekly, whatever, product update? So I think fitting that A to B, the promise and the delivery is so important to be able to push the limits of that boundary. If you're just starting from scratch, I would say 2 a week. If you want an answer that's just an answer, I would say 2 a week is the default. Most people do 1 a week. I would say you can absolutely do 2 a week. You should be doing 2 a week on a consistent basis. But once again, don't just say, great, Nick's a 2 a week, do 2 a week. You should figure out, once again, what do your customers want? Maybe some people want the 2 a week, but then a third of your customers want the Friday Nick update or whatever. Give them these options to keep serving them more emails. Because at the end of the day, Kathy, we've studied this times. Every year we study this number. It is so proven. The more touch points you have with your customers, the more they shop. If you can somehow email them every single day, they will spend more at your store. I guarantee you. There's no scenario you can convince me of, because I've seen the data times millions of communications that, oh, no. Our customers are different. If they get 1 email a month, they're going to buy just as much as they get emailed every day. They will not. I promise you. That if you can communicate with them more often across social, email, text, literally the more touch points they will let you communicate with you, they will spend more at your store 100% of the time.
Yep, it's so true. And I think the other point about it that people forget is that people never see all your emails. And also, you are not your best customer.
Totally.
You get bored with yourself. Your mother probably gets bored with you.
Totally.
But your family won't. I had family and friends that would say, oh, yeah, I stopped getting your emails. Yeah, okay, I don't care. You're not my target. I don't care. It's no big deal.
And it's a great point, though. I mean, and the inboxes kind of filter out your emails depending on what the topics are. So, you might be sending it 3 times a week, but they're only opening 1 a week, and they're happy to open the 1, but that's fine.
Right. Exactly. And
also in email, listen, I can tell you right now, you keep in mind what you're going up against. Almost all your customers are going up against the big chains too. And I promise you, the big chains, we've studied this too, email almost every day. So you got to think, you're going against a noisy environment. So they're not going to label you, my God, you're over communicating. It's the same way of never overselling core is we've never had somebody email too often. Never. We've never had somebody push the limits of, you lied to me. I emailed them too often and they started to panic or whatnot. It just never happened. And to your point, you might get one person email you saying you email too often. And they think, oh my God, we're emailing too often. Kill it, stop doing it. It's like, it happens. You need to go back and still look at the numbers. Is it converting? Is it not converting? And you might be surprised.
Right. Correct. Absolutely, you will be. I mean, I know that for sure. And I also think another interesting thing is that we teach about how to do a store box and a subscription box and membership box and everything. And we always say that on the last day of the sale, send out 2 emails, the exact same email. And with the subject line says it ends tonight. And all you're going to do is put in the very beginning of it, listen, I know life gets really busy. I just really don't want you to miss it.
Totally.
And send it out at 6 a.m. and then like at 9 p.m. or something if it ends at midnight. And it works like a charm. People are like, wow, I was so nervous that people were going to, unsubscribe. Yeah. I said, did people unsubscribe? And they said, yeah. I said, good, because those people, you don't want to bother them anymore. It's no big deal. It's good that they're gone.
Last Black Friday, we had stores that emailed at 6 a.m., 7, 9, 11, 12. Like they said 7 or 8 emails. Hey, listen, we sat very closely with them. They had some people be like, get me off this list. You just sent me this email. They had a couple negative feedback, but they had the highest sales they've ever had, the highest conversion numbers ever, because they have a big list. They have tens and tens of thousands of customers.
Yeah.
So, it's just like,
right.
And that's Black Friday. So you had to amp it up during Black Fridays.
Right. But that wouldn't even have occurred to me. I will totally tell our clients to do that this year.
You can usually, just in general, to everyone listening, you can normally up level with the rest of the world. So when the rest of the world's emailing more, you also should be emailing more. When Black Friday, the big brands are emailing multiple times a day. Amazon's emailing you 4 times a day, which means now your velocity can also go up. Sometimes people get scared. They're like, well, they're getting so many emails from everybody else. No, you got to level up with everybody else because you got to be a part of that, for lack of a better word, noise.
Yeah.
You have to be a part of it.
Right. Yeah. My last question about this is that if you had to bet your business on one email strategy, what would it be? Like, what would you say is completely non-negotiable about emails?
I struggle with this because it's way easier to answer that when you look at what industry are you in? I would say, I would answer differently for our pet stores versus our sewing stores versus our clothing stores versus all of that. But I would say that if I had to answer broadly, we've kind of already answered on the call today. I would say 2 emails a week. Forever. Yeah, I would say non-negotiable, two emails a week. And though that can come in a lot of different flavors, but I would say the number one non-negotiable I bet my life on is you're not emailing enough. I can almost guarantee everyone on this call is not emailing enough.
Well, and also I would say that actually, however much you're emailing, you should be increasing it.
That's a good point. Yep, that's a good point.
Emailing 2, you should be emailing 3 times.
Yep, 100%.
And wouldn't you also say that those 3 emails should be different? Back to your point about a newsletter. It's absolutely fine. If your people love newsletters, then do that. Send them newsletters. That's great. That's fabulous. But also make sure that you're sending them an email that is just about one thing. Like, oh my gosh, don't miss that we just got, can you believe how beautiful this is? And blah, blah, blah.
You're not going to convert on a daily newsletter in retail. You're just not. You're not going to convert on a daily newsletter. So you have to have a newsletter. And I agree with you. You have to have a product driven, buy this email as well. You're not going to convert if all you have is a newsletter. You need to have both those 2 things. And to your point, even if you're like, well, I do 5 emails a week, you want me to do even more? I would say, why? Because you can add a segmented email as that next email. If you've gotten to the capacity, you could do a 1 a week email. Because you're segmenting it, it might be the people who only bought this item in the past, which means that the only people who are going to get 6 emails that week is that one tiny cohort. Right. So it's great. Right. And the week after, they won't get 6 emails. So I agree with you. That's a good point, is not just 2, but if you should increase marginally no matter where you're at.
Correct. Right. Can you imagine having a core item and you don't even have to think again about how that email is going to go out at 4 months and 1 day? You talk about creating $1,000 email. That email is worth so much more than that,
Cheated on that'd be my number one non-negotiable, is make sure you have some kind of flow strategy together.
Actually, I lied. I have one more question after that. So I'm sorry. What's the fastest way to grow a list that really buys instead of just collecting names? Because a big list is nothing if they don't spend, right?
And it will cost you more. To your point,
exactly. For everybody. Yeah.
The best way to get efficiency in your list is to have a point in your process where they willingly say they want to be on this list for a specific reason. At the point of sale, it could be like, do you want to join our email list? Or what's your email? Oh, real quick, let me ask you a couple questions if you don't mind. Do you want to get these kind of emails? That's most stores are not going to do that, so I don't want to like kid myself. But the better thing is, I think your first email should be, hey, what do you like? And I can go over the strategy technically of this, but I would say the first email should be like, hey, it's Nick. I'm the owner of store A. Like, really, I appreciate you, like, shopping at our store. Get a quick feedback on you of, what do you want to hear from us? Like, do you want to be on our Friday new delivery email? Do you want to be on our Monday weekly newsletter? Do you want to be like getting them to have some action and be hooked in it? I would say is the number one to get people that you're going to weed out the people. And at the very least, you might have, you'll now segment your list into two components: active email engagements and passive. Like passive is just like, well, I signed up for the 10% guy. Like, I'm not going to read your emails.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like, that's fine. It goes out to the wayside. But you have the people who are like, no, I'm here because I want to do that. So
right. Yeah. I love Nick and I love his stuff.
And so, also the other thing is, if you want to keep deliverability, like you could do this via a reply. If your customers reply back to you, you immediately shoot out of the promotions inbox and out of the spam inbox into the primary inbox. So if you say, hey, just shoot me a note and reply back with 1, 2, or 3, like 1 being you want to be on this list, 2 being you want to be on this list, 3 being on this list. If you can get your customers to reply, you are in their main inbox now. It's a smaller percentage of your list, but you will get, those people are now like going to get your emails 100%.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, they've raised their hand. They want more information. You're not going to do it if you don't care,
Exactly.
Oh, this was so fabulous. Okay, my very last question for you is, we end the podcast by asking, what's your Millie moment? And what that means is that we believe wholeheartedly that every single retailer should be a richer retailer, richer in every sense of the word, right? And so I want them to get to $1 million. And my primary reason, Nick, for wanting people to get to $1 million is, did you know that of all the $1 million businesses, less than 1.9% are owned by women?
That's wild. That's a wild stat, like absolutely wild and almost upsetting, to be honest with you.
It is. That's why I care so much about getting this information out there, because there's so many things that people don't know can be easier for them than they think. You have shared so many great helps today. This Millie moment is that moment. Maybe it is about crossing $1 million. Maybe that is it for you. But at that moment, like when you did something, you're like, damn, I did that.
Yeah.
Wow. That you're really proud of yourself about, what was it for you and how did it impact your journey?
Yeah. So I had to think really hard about this, to be honest with you. I thought very deeply on like, what was the moment that I'm most proud of? And I gotta tell you, and my most proud Millie moment, it has to do with the $1 million, getting to $1 million too. It has to do with that as well. My most proud moment was finding and hiring my superstar employee that was better than me. Like for the longest time, I was running my business thinking like, I founded this, I'm running this, I'm going to be the best at every job. Like, and I have to lead A, B, C, or D. And then finding my first hire that was just so good is like, you're 10 times better than me at this thing. Like, and actually many things where it's like, I would work for you. Literally, like if you were starting something, like I would go file a job to work for you. And then that person hitting their Millie moment was like by far like surpasses anything that I personally have done in the business. Like, and I could say I found that person, but being able to identify that and like get them to that point, by far my biggest Millie moment of just like seeing them succeed and me not being involved at all, like them operating autonomously, just doing their thing. 100% my Millie moment.
Oh, that is awesome. Congratulations. Yeah. Isn't that funny? Because you would just think that it has to be about you, but that's the most beautiful thing, is that you see someone else grow like that and you find that person.
So much more fulfilling to get the other people around you to also raise the ship up. Just so much more fulfilling.
Yeah, right. That's just wonderful. Well, please listen, congratulations on that. That's awesome. But now tell us about your company and how can people connect with you?
Well, first and foremost, if you want to follow me, it's Nick McHenry on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Connect with me. I do a lot more of this kind of stuff posting there. But yeah,
and we'll put all the links in the show notes.
Yeah, the links will be in the show notes. So follow me there. One Shop Retail is our company or my company. So we're an all-in-one loyalty, email marketing, text marketing, social media marketing platform integrated in most major point of sale systems. So we try to take the work out of the things we've said. So all the stuff we're talking about, segmentation, personalization, we just across your loyalty, email, text, social, we try to make it as easy as possible, just building like a really robust, easy to use platform that you can utilize. So we'd love to chat with you. We like to talk to everybody first. We don't want you just to sign up. We want to understand your use case and really try to be hands-on to make it, your best experience. So you can reach out to us. You can reach out to me. I'm sure there'll be links here, and we'd love to talk.
And the thing you got to know is that Nick is really a good person. One of my clients had just a few little hiccups in working with him, but they kept coming back because they trusted Nick. And that says it all. I mean,
Listen,
that says it all.
I'll tell you, like, we are not perfect. You know, like, software is hard. Like, we have so many point of sale systems we work with. We have so many different industries. Like, I will tell you, if you're listening to this, we are not always the perfect solution. We're not always, it's technology. So I'm sure you work with the point of sale and you know that, like, there's always things that are bugs or things we're, missing. But I tell my team and ourselves, like, we are always wanting to be your best partner. And if we don't do right, we will refund your money. Like, we want to make sure that it's not perfect for everybody. We've had things that don't work out, but we want to make sure that we are there by your side and on your team, not just, not there. So.
And don't you want to get emails from somebody who's that honest and that transparent? Like, that's the point. Who else have you ever heard talk about how their company isn't perfect? I mean, like, that doesn't happen.
Totally.
That's the kind of person that you need to be too when you're writing those emails, that when you're communicating is just that honest when you're talking to them.
And your customers want it too. They want the real you. Like, they want the real you. It always drives me crazy. And then e-commerce experts have different opinions on this, but it always drives me crazy when I go to our retailer's website and their About Me page is not actually about you. Like, it drives me crazy when the About Me page is like, Boutique ABC was founded in 2007 to empower women to buy great clothes. Like, no. You started this. This is your store. Like, you need to tell your story because that's why people shop here. So just,
what we call it?
Crazy.
We call it your love story. You have to tell your love story because there is a love story behind the fact why you started your business. And so that About You page is your love story page. And 100%. The other thing I'll tell you that, and feel free to swipe this, Nick, is that one of the emails that you can get so much response on and that will move you into that other category where they're all automatic get your emails is to say to people in an email as well as on social media, hey, I'm doing a marketing experiment. And not a marketing experiment. I'm doing a marketing project. What 3 words would you use to describe our store?
I love that.
It's incredible. And it's so heartwarming what you hear, and you can, but I've had people say, oh, well, do I have to give away something? Listen, people just do it. It's incredible. So just try
love that. That is, I'm going to do that. Like, literally, I'm doing that this week. Like, I love that. I'm going to do that.
It's incredible what you hear. It's really amazing. And some people will say, horrible.
Yeah, some people listen. I don't know about you, Kathy, but like, I'm always petrified. Like, do I really want to send this because they're going to say the worst or like immoral? It's like, it does happen, but like you I think more often you're surprised. Like, I was so scared about this thing, and almost everybody had good things to say. So it's
right, exactly. Thank you so much, Nick, for being here. I'm so grateful for you.
Thanks for having me. I had a blast, Kathy. And
thank you very much. And listen, you listening, know that you are astonishingly fabulous.
1,000%. You rock.
And you are so loved. All right. Happy retailing, everybody.